Vayamas Yoshua, Ben Nun Ebed Hashem, Ben Me'av Eser Shanim. So Yoshua died. He died at the end of Sefer Yoshua. He dies here again because we went back over to repeat what we said about Yoshua being Yeshua having left over a lot to get done, and Pinchas had come and told him they had a lot to do. But they buried him in the boundary of his Nach, of his portion of Eretz Yisrael. But Timnas Cheres Bar Ephraim, Bitzon Hargash, and Timnas Cheres, which is on the mountain of Ephraim. Yeshua was in shade of Ephraim, which is north of Hargash, north of the volcano. So there are very few volcanoes in Eretz Yisrael, certainly very few active ones. So in the Big Day Sheish, page Chavtes, I point out that in Sefer Yoshua, this place called Timnas Serach, and Rashi says here the name was changed here for a reason. It says here Timnas Cheres al Shem Shemidu Tmunas Cheres al Kibro. They put a picture of pottery on his grave, meaning Chaval al Adam Shemir Chama Muta Bekever. The woe to the person who stopped the sun during his lifetime, was able to stop the sun in order to Amiso to complete the battle they were waging against the Canaanites, and well, now it just became like a piece of pottery. That's the one interpretation, but Chazal give a different interpretation. Now that it was called Timnas Cheres. Back here. Yeah, it was called Timnas Cheres because they were like a broken piece of pottery, and Chazal like out of the Big Deshesh Chazal Mekashi is the pasuk Zion. They connect this to pasuk Zion where about this Canaan, and it says when Shas Cain these two comes manam, this Cain died before they should have died. And the volcano erupted on them. Because they didn't do a proper hesped Yoshua. They gave a proper send off to Yoshua. So why? What's the big deal? Okay, hesped is an important thing. The person dies, you get to say a speech about what he was about. But why is it so important that they were punished? The volcano erupted, and this Cain died younger than they should have because they didn't do hesped for Yoshua. So a hesped ain't rak sikum chaya niftar. A hesped is not just to summarize the life of the person who died. Elishtadlus, it's an effort li'amolekachim musariyim, to learn musar mina niftar from the person who died. Amnas lishtadel, to make an effort laseis kiyum, to give a lasting survival li'nifalei niftar l'torah l'tudah, to the activities of the person who passed away for Torah and for the destiny of Am Yisrael. So therefore, the fact that they didn't do a hesped for Yoshua means they didn't learn from Yoshua's life properly how to continue and live in Eretz Yisrael the way Hashem wanted them. And I bring that here that from Reb Shamshpol Hirsch. I am Pirish of Shamshpol Hirsch that Salva Precious Perknun Paskiyut. Mispays Milosha Shafat. Reb Shamshpol Hirsch is very good at taking letters which were similar and rearranging the letters in a word to the similar letters and finding the meaning that way. So you take Shafat as Shin, Pei, Tes. Take Safad, which is Samech, Pei, Dalet. Shin and Samech are interchangeable in Hebrew. That's obvious in that fact that a sin and Samech are read the same way. So therefore, they're interchangeable. They can go back and forth between the two letters. Take which is Dalet and a Tes. They're very similar in the way they sound, right? Dalet is the, Tes is t. They're very similar. So therefore, and he makes a whole science of that with the entire Hebrew language. How similar sounds mean that the words are related. So Safad, Samech Pei Dalid, is related to Shafat, Shin Pei Tes. And therefore, It means when a person dies, we judge what we're supposed to learn from him. That's what the Hesped is all about. L'seis niftaras on page Lam in the Big Deshesh. L'seis niftaras hem da ruya, to give to the person who passed away the proper stature, the proper place in our history. In order that it should remain in our memory. But Sefer Meshech Chachma, Dvarim Perek Dal Pasuk Ches, he says, "Mispeit Shvis Orus Lidarchem Es B'Lasav." Similar idea, although he doesn't connect it with Shabbat. It means that we get aroused from the pathways of the dead person and his activities to follow them. The Sefer Chachma Musar Simcha Zesum Mikam Zatzal, say B'Sim Rizal Beis. Hainyan, there are two things. The Hainyan who Kiahespe Bekina, saying a hesped, a eulogy, kina is a lamentation, like kinos we say at Tisha B'Av. Nova Shtei Bechinos has two aspects to it. Echad Kovnat Tzadik, one is on the honor of the person who passed away. Voda, but the other more important aspect is Asibra Masim Tovim, telling over that person's good deeds. They lilmod lechas midrachav, to learn to go in his pathways. Loas Kain ba'am Kain b'mos Yeshua. So the people didn't do it when Yeshua died. The Quran Mashkran, therefore, what happened happened. So it's when a person passes away, it's very important to us to note what that person contributed to the world. There's nobody who comes to this world who doesn't contribute something. Unfortunately, some people contribute negatively, but everybody contributes to this world in some way, shape, or form. Hashem didn't create anybody with no impact. Everybody has impact. Some people have bigger impacts, some people have smaller impacts, but everybody has an impact. And therefore, we have to appreciate people and the impact they make on this world. And if we don't learn the lessons from the impacts other people have in the world, we're basically we're taking a step backwards. Because this person accomplished something. He accomplished something, and I don't figure out what he accomplished. So I didn't learn anything in his life. I can accomplish much less myself because I have to start further back. If the famous marshal, which many people use, not just Jews, would say that the later generations are not as great as earlier generations, but we're like dwarfs standing on the shoulders of giants. In other words, if we understand what people were in earlier generations and that they were giants, so we can build on that. And we, even though we're dwarfs, we're on their shoulders, so we can see higher than they are. So they did. So yes, we're not as great as people once were, but we have, if we learn from them, so we can be more advanced than them, because we learn from what they accomplished before us. So that's the idea of a hesped. And if you don't do a hesped properly, says the Navi, so then it's very bad for you. You're not going to be able to accomplish anything near what you could have accomplished because you don't learn from the people who came before you. Okay, so let's go on to the next pasuk. The entire generation was gathered unto his fathers, which means that they died. And then another generation rose. Asher lo yadu as Hashem. They didn't know Hashem, and also the deeds that he did time Yisrael. It was the first generation. They were still people who saw what happened in the Midbar. But afterwards, the entire generation who did not know that. So Bnei Yisrael, the first time we've come across this in Tanakh, in Chumash, they're hints of Bnei Yisrael being Avodah Zarah, like by Baal Peor, it says Vayitz Medula Baal Peor. They connect themselves to Baal Peor in this week's parsha, Parshas next parsha, Parshas Bolak. But it's never outright that they went to Avodah Zarah. The first time Am Yisrael goes to worship Avodah Zarah is after the death of Yeshua, after the death of Canaan, and they don't remember anymore what happened with Bnei Yisrael that left Mitzrayim. They're no longer in touch with those miracles which reminded them of the existence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They have Duas Baalim, and they start worshiping the Baalim. The Baal was one of the Avodah Zarahs of Canaanim. Literally, Baal means a master. So it means other masters. They started worshiping other masters besides HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Pasuk Beis, Vayazvus Hashem Elokei Avosam. They left Hashem, the God of their fathers, and Motzios Eretz Mitzrayim, took them out of Egypt. They went after foreign gods. I mean, Moshe was saying from the gods were nations surround them. By Shtachvu Lahen, they bow down to them. By Isu es Hashem, and they angered Hashem. Vayazvu es Hashem, vayavdu labav ashtaros, and they start worshiping the Baal and Ashtaros. So it's a little bit difficult because we already said in Pasuk Yudalev, vayasubnei so sarab b'nei Hashem v'du sabalim. So why are we repeating here again? We already know that they started worshiping Avodah Zarah. What's Pasuk Yud Gimel adding that we didn't know from Pasuk Yudalev? Seems to be the same thing, right? So whatever it was, big day shade comes in a second. But you know, I just noticed something now. Here it says, by assuming so Sarab Hashem. See that? They did the bad, but here it just says, by Azul Hashem, Abdul Barashtaros. It doesn't say, by assuming so Sarah. Why the difference? Why it just said here it says they did the bad, and here they just said they left. So you know there's a famous Gemara. Rav Huna says, "Oh, Rav Shana Nasis Lokaheter." The first time a person sins is very bad, and he himself feels very guilty about it. The second time a person sins, he doesn't feel so bad about it because he already got used to sinning. And so if he did an avera and repeated it, it feels to him like it's mutter. We all know this thing. When you do something bad the first time, you feel guilty. When you do the second time, you don't feel so guilty anymore. On the other hand, you're not as responsible as you were the first time, because the first time you really knew better, and therefore you really should not have messed up. Second time, you're already in the rut. You already stumbled once. So therefore, it's much easier to stumble again. You're not as responsible for it. Rabbi Saul Solanta used to add, as they say, that, and this is a person of our Bishana, a person did Avera and then did it again, he looks at it as if it's mutter. If he does it a third time, he looks at it as if it's a mitzvah. Where it's a person at some point, nobody likes thinking of themselves as a bad person. Nobody. So therefore, a person at some point creates a justification, and the bad thing he does, he starts looking at it as a mitzvah. In other words, this is something good to do, right? You know, the first time, just to make us a very minor example, right? The first time a person disturbs in class, he feels bad about it. Second time disturbs, he doesn't feel so bad about it. The third time disturbs the class, he feels, oh, look what a great thing I did. I disturbed the class. So everybody's going to be happy and proud of me. So the same thing with any Avera. Person starts off, they feel bad. The second time, not so bad. The third time, says Rabbi Sol, they already think of it as a mitzvah. It's a good thing to do. So the first people to serve the Baal, they were wicked. They did which is wicked, and they went to worship Baalim. The second wave, they didn't actually consider themselves evil, and they were not as evil because they're already following the first wave of people. Perhaps it was their children, perhaps it was the other people. But in any event, they're not responsible. They're not by Yahshua Rabbi Hashem. They just happen to fall off and follow the people before them. The people before them were wicked. They themselves, they're just sinners. Now, there's this concept also in halacha of a tinok shenishba. If you have a child who grew up, he was taken into captivity at a very young age, and he grew up as a captive among the nations of the world. So he's not held as responsible for his averus that somebody grew up in a positive environment and then went off and sinned. He's called a tinok shenishba, a child who was taken captive. So the same idea applies here, that the first generation, they knew better. And they asus b'nei so ra, right? Even though, and the interesting thing is that, yes, they themselves didn't know Hashem and that which Hashem did to Am Yisrael, but they had their parents. Their parents saw it. By the time we get to the next generation, where the parents didn't see it, so then we can't call them evil. They were put in that situation. They were stuck there. It's still bad. But it's not as bad as if they heard all those stories from their parents. It'd be even worse. The first generation went to serve Avodah Zarah, despite the fact that they saw Hashem's amazing miracles, but they didn't. The next generation did. They're considered to be evil or bad because they should have listened to their parents' stories and believed them and did the right thing. The third generation, they're not even considered evil anymore. That's just the way they are, because that's the way they were raised. They're raised like this Tinoch Shanishma, like the children taken captive. So if we don't hold them responsible to the same extent. Okay, that's not what I wrote in the Sefer here. The Sefer I focused on the fact that here it says Vayavdus Abalim, and here it says Labav Lashtaros. The I write here on the Big Day Shesh on page 9, but Achrei Shanavi Bir Faneis Moros, after Navi depicted the incident, she viewed the Kupas of Shoftim, which brought about the period of Shoftim when people were not doing the right thing, and obviously because they didn't conquer the Canaan properly. Mevaru Malchis Dadrusalumis, he depicts the gradual unfolding of the descent of the nation. Even though they began with the Baalim, this is a generic Avodah Zarah. They wish eventually an even worse Avodah Zarah. Evidently, the Ashtores is a worse Avodah Zarah than the Baalim. The Baal. Because Baal is an Avodah Zarah, but Ashtores is specifically Avodah Zarah where, which has to do with also Gili Arayas. So it's going down another Madrega. So they first started with the Baal, and then they got the Ashtaros. And this brings back, refers to back to Gemara, which we had. Sheitachnis Avodah Zarah b'Yisrael nus. And now, the Gemara said, Heshen Dav Sam Gimel says, Lo of the Yisrael Avodah Zarah Gdei Lehat Lehan Gili Arayas Mefaresia. The Jews only started Avodah Zarah in order to get to Gili Arayas. So the first Madrega was the Baal. That was bad enough. It was starting Avodah Zarah. But then they got the next Avodah Zarah, which is Ashtaros, because ultimately where they wanted to end up is with Gili Arayas, which we're doing inappropriate behavior. So that was the next step. I have to look at the Malbim. Oh, it's a little bit long. So, no, but it's worthwhile seeing, I think. Let's see, Pasuk base. He says, well, actually, it starts over here. Yirav. I mean, Pasuk Yirav and Pasuk Chafu Ma'amar Muzgar. From Pasuk Yirav, Pasuk Chafu is like a bracketed statement. It's like something which is not dealing directly with history. It's like a synopsis, an introduction, Sefer, and to all of the books, and to all the stories of the day of the Shoftim. So he says these took an introduction to the Sefer. In other words, they set the pattern. Vayasu Choshev, the pasuk reckons, Kismotu two that they fell down, B'shloshim Madregas, 3 levels, Zeh one after another. Aleph Tchilu Asor Sarah B'nei Hashem, Shachatu Negem Mitzvahs Torah. So first is the Rabbi Hashem, which he defines as going against the mitzvahs of the Torah. Bays afterwards, the Mary, they reach the end of their revolution. Achav this Bible, they start worshiping Avodah Zarah. Vatabier now explains Mary Zesha of the Avodah Zarah in that rebellion that they worship Avodah Zarah. You got Kishtem also 2 levels. Kiesh Avodah Zarah b'shituf. He says the He worships Avodah Zarah with joining Hashem with other gods. It's many people who serve Avodah Zarah, like the Christians, they believe in Hashem and they believe in other gods. That's called Avodah Zarah b'shituf. Shituf means partnership. I partner Hashem with other gods. And those who forget God who made him altogether. Of the Avodah Zarah b'shituf. So first they started serving Avodah Zarah b'shituf, meaning they partnered Hashem with the foreign god. And that's that which it says. By Hashem that there's a difference. They left Hashem, the God of their fathers. And Mom explains, Yesha delicately, I see this distinction, but call Malcolm every place. Shem Hashem Stam, when the name Hashem is mentioned without any additional description. So because then, if he's not described as being anything else besides just plain God, we're talking about God as the creator of the world, who created from scratch. Ubain, and it's different. She asks Hashem Elokim b'kinui, when it mentions the name Hashem with a description. Kimo, like it says, Elokei Yisrael, the God of Israel. Elokei Abasan, the God of their fathers, like it says here. She'osi daber alav, then it's talking about Hashem not as the creator of the world independently, but mitzad kesher sheish lo im Yisrael, but in the respect of the connection that he has with the Jewish people, and with their forefathers, shebacharam, who he chose, l'chalkot to be his portion. Ishgiach aleim, and he paid careful attention to them, consider them, b'hashgacha mufleis, with amazing hashgacha, amazing consideration. Umitzad zeh, and this can, because we have a special relationship with Hashem, oslam la'avodah b'shituv, we're now serving God with partnership. We are not subject to any angel, any official in Shemaim, or any star. We're underneath the control of Hashem directly. In other words, other nations of the world who weren't chosen by Hashem. So it's like Mida connecting Mida. Since they weren't chosen by Hashem, they could serve by Hashem with other gods. For them, it's okay. But not for us. Because Hashem chose us. He said, I chose you to be specifically mine. You have to choose me specifically as yours. You can't have me as one of many gods. A goy can, at least according to the thesis, the Rambam does at least. According to the Rambam, a goy can have multiple gods as long as one of them is the right one. Because and it's Mida because he does, it corresponds, because he doesn't have a special relationship with Hashem. But a Jew can't do that. A Jew has a special relationship with Hashem, so therefore he can't say, okay, I worship Hashem and worship other gods as well. So it says, he ate him the same time. Okay, wait. Which because it says, Hashem made the other gods for the other nations of the world. But you, he took it for himself. Now, when they serve Hashem together with partnering with other gods, it's true they don't leave God in and of himself. They still believe that God created the world and renews every day. Nevertheless, they're leaving behind God, the Lord of Israel. Whereas they're leaving the special relationship behind. As Hashem have a son, same idea. Hashem, the God of their fathers. So they leave him in terms of his being the God of Israel and the God of their forefathers. Because he's the God of Israel and the God of forefathers, that's why we're directly under his control, and no other foreign God has any control of us. That's the Nabi says, they started they started saying, okay, God is God, Hashem Elokim, but other gods are also cool. So let's take other gods as well. So they left Hashem, who took it out of Egypt. Shemi Oz, I don't know what's the word here. Hashlem. I'm not sure where it is. Hashlem Hashka, he perfected them. But Hashkachim Yeches was special, the special divine Hashkacha, providence, but and they he designated us for his portion. They followed other gods as well. With this anger Hashem, by partnering God and other gods, partnering Hashem and other gods. Then they went down even further, went down astonishingly. But as was Hashem, they left Hashem as Hashem. They didn't leave a special relationship. They forgot about Hashem altogether. Even in terms of Hashem being the creator of existence. They not Hashem, not him. They worship only Avodah Zarah. So according to the Malbim, the difference between Pasuk Aleph and this Pasuk, the Pasuk Gimel was that in the Aleph, they actually base. Hashem, okay, but some they didn't have the proper respect for the relationship with Hashem. And then the separate thing is in Pasuk Gimel, Hashem, they left Hashem, forget about relationships, they left Hashem altogether. And they worshiped the Baal and Ashtaros. Okay, that's the Malbim. So Pasuk Yudalit, Vaycharav Hashem Yisrael. Hashem got angry at the Jewish people. By name Biyad Shosim, and gave him his hand the people who ripped them up. By Shusasam, they ripped up the Jews. They crave out of him, and Hashem sold us into the hands of our enemies, Misaviv, all around us. The Loyachlu Olam of and were not able to withstand their enemies. So wherever they went out, Yad Hashem and Hashem was against them and brought them negative things. Hashem, like Hashem said in the Chumash, he says, if you go off the derech, I'm gonna punish you. Hashem lahem, and like he promised them, and he caused them great difficulty, great anguish. So the thing about Hashem with Am Yisrael is he doesn't let us go. It's another nation. Okay, who cares? Of course Hashem cares. But he doesn't get the same way. He has a special bris with us. Since there's a special bris from the time of the Avos with us, so therefore it's much worse when we go off the derech, right? And the flip side of that is that Hashem says, but I'm not going to let you stay there. I'm going to punish you. If it's somebody else, may I just let them go? Let them slide. Who cares? They're not important to me, but you're important. So you're important. When you go off the derech, Hashem says, you know what? Then I promised you, I'm going to punish you, and you're going to be punished. So you don't get off the hook. Okay, so now, but there's a cycle. Hashem Shoftim. Hashem sends them Shoftim. And the Shoftim save them from their enemies. That's interesting. In Sefer Shoftim, sometimes the Shoftim save their enemies first, and sometimes they get them to do tshuva first. But usually they send for enemies first. Because Jews, they're not interested in listening to any person who comes and says, do tshuva. It's got to be a person who's a real, who's accomplished something for Am Yisrael. So therefore, usually the Shoftim have to come. They have to first save the Jews. And then afterwards, they can try and get the Jews to do tshuva. Not run out first. So it says, Vayochel Hashem Shoftim. Vayoshim Yachosem, and the Shoftim killed them, saved them from the people who wanted to crush them. But then, plus Zayin, okay, look, just the things looking up. They wouldn't listen either to the Shoftim either. Because they borrowed fallen gods. And they bowed down to them. It's interesting, the same lashon that is by the Chet Ego, that they sinned very quickly. Immediately after Moshe was gone for extra mourning, they went and they made the Ego. So the idea is also here. They are constantly going to are trying to get out of their responsibilities. It's interesting that Jews are Amkshe Oref, or stiff-necked people, and that has a mile and a concern, has an advantage and disadvantage. The advantage is it's not. We have a capacity to resist influence, a negative influence. We're stiff-necked. We're stubborn. We don't follow people. But the disadvantage is that we ignore influence. That if a good person comes tries to influence us, it's also hard to influence us. So Hashem gave us this stubbornness as us use it as a mile, to use it as an advantage. We don't give in to bad influence. But very often use it as a chisar. We don't give in to good influence either. So that's what happened here, right? He says, sorrow minaher minaderech. They didn't listen, and they went very quickly. From there, which as when the Shomer says Hashem, to listen to the name of Hashem, lost okay, they didn't then do that. They didn't stick. And as it just becomes a big cycle, Sefer Shoftim. Hashem would send them, literally caused to be raised up among them, Shoftim. Hashem and Hashem was with the shofet. V'Hoshem Yaraveim and Shofet saved them from their enemies. Kol Yemei Shofet, the entire life of the shofet. Kinochem Hashem and Akosam. Why? Because Hashem felt bad that they were crying out. Like we say, Hashem is with us in our pain. Whatever that means. Because obviously Hashem doesn't have emotions the way human beings have emotions. But we talk about Hashem as if he does. So Hashem's with them in their pain, and he's willing to listen even before they do tshuva. He'll send the shofet, and he'll rely on the shofet to get them to do tshuva. And they listened as long as the shofet was still alive. Because Hashem was upset as they're crying out. Because the people will press them and pressure them to do the wrong thing. But it didn't last. When the shofet died, Yashuvu b'shchisu, they'll go up and they'll be they'll be more corrupt than their fathers. Because every generation has to have a chiddush in being bad. To follow other gods, to love them and to worship them, and bow down to them. They never fell short in their plots and their negative the bad derech on which they embarked. The idea of a shofet. What's being ordered? Shofet, a judge, right? He brings order to the world. So the shofet is being ordered, and he tried, right? But the people were very stubborn, and it didn't stick. Eventually, this is one of the reasons I had to have a king, because the shofet was not a dynasty. Once the shofet died, they picked a new one, and it take years before they picked a new one, and it wasn't necessarily a good one. So the idea of Malchus Beis David, which hasn't yet succeeded, obviously, but the idea of Malchus Beis David is that we should have continuity. We should have a shofet, not just a shofet, but a king and an heir to that, and that way we're going to have a continuity of leadership. So first Hashem tried the inspirational kind of leadership. Let's send a shofet every so often. He'll inspire them. And then maybe they'll be able to do things on their own. Didn't work. So that's why they shifted the king model. We don't trust, the Jews cannot be trusted, unfortunately, to make sure that they monitor themselves. Somebody else has to monitor them. The Mida Knega Mida, because this pattern, Hashem got angry at these Jewish people. He said, since they violated my wrist, of so much I commanded their forefathers, and they didn't listen to me. They didn't eradicate the goyim. That's why they sinned. I'm not going to help them, right? I'm not going to do it for them. I mean, those who left over from Yoshua and when he died. And so, too bad. This time, which we're going to run out of time, so I think we're going to have to go back to it next time. This is to test the Jews. Hashem is derech Hashem. They're going to watch the way of Hashem to go in that way. Like the forefathers did in low. And again, we're going to come back to what exactly means in the soil. A test, what kind of test it is. By Nach Hashem, so I want to read the last pasuk in the parak. By Nach Hashem is Goyim. Hashem left the nations of the world. They shouldn't be destroyed very quickly. He deliberately didn't give in to Yeshua. And then when after the death of Yeshua, didn't continue, they were there. And all Sefer Shoftim is about Nisyonis from the non-Jews. So again, as I said, we'll come back to the idea of what Nisyon is and what Nisyon does and why it's so important to have Nisyonis in life. Not to have Nisyonis. Not to be in Loyday, Nisyon, Loyday, Bizayon. Don't bring us to test, don't bring us to shame. We'll see how important Nisyonis are next time we learn. Okay, good. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great night. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.